Have you guys seen the thrilling movie Unbreakable starring Bruce Willis, which released in the year 2000 and got a lot of critical acclaim? I loved that movie and was always fascinated by the story of this guy played by Bruce Willis, who did not have any obvious superpowers like Superman or Spiderman, but who would survive the worst of disasters and come out virtually unscathed. It left me wondering if there are indeed such guys in real life who would time and again go to the brink of death but miraculously end up cheating death. In fact, we have one in Mr. Tsutomu Yamaguchi, who survived not just one but both the atomic bombs that were dropped in the cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki in Japan during the Second World War in 1945. Unfortunately, a total of 130,000 people were killed on day one of these bombings, and about 226,000 died in total within a few months due to the after effects. In this context, it is unbelievable to think that Yamaguchi was within a radius of 2 miles in both the bombings, but somehow managed to survive and went on to live a fairly healthy life for a further 65 years. Yamaguchi, a resident of Nagasaki, was on official duty in Hiroshima on the 6th of August 1945, working for Mitsubishi as a naval engineer. In fact, it was meant to be his last day of a 3-month official trip to Hiroshima, and he was eagerly waiting to get back with his wife and kid when disaster struck for the first time. In the morning, he was walking to the Mitsubishi shipyard when he heard a drone above and saw an American B-29 bomber drop a small object connected to a parachute. Soon, he saw the sky erupt in a blaze of light, which he described as the lightning of a huge magnesium flare. He barely managed to dive into a ditch nearby, but was thrown in the air and tossed into a potato field by the sheer impact of the shock wave caused by the bomb. His initial recollection was of fainting immediately and total darkness when he came to his senses. He was surrounded by torrents of falling ash and saw a mushroom cloud of fire rising over the Hiroshima skies. His face and forearms were badly burnt and both his eardrums had ruptured. But he could still walk around. Still in a daze, Yamaguchi walked back to what remained of the Mitsubishi shipyard and was surprised to find a couple of his co-workers had also survived the bombing. After surviving a restless night, they went to the train station in the morning of 7th August. The trains were somehow still operating. It was a sickening journey to the train station with nightmarish sights of flickering flames, destroyed buildings, and corpses lying everywhere around. Most of the city's bridges were damaged by the impact, and at one point, Yamaguchi had to swim through a layer of floating bodies. On reaching the station, he boarded a train to Nagasaki with some other injured and bewildered passengers. He arrived in Nagasaki on the morning of the 8th August and limped his way to the hospital. In the hospital, he was attended to by a doctor who was in fact his childhood friend, but he could not recognize Yamaguchi due to the severe burns on his face. For that matter, his family also did not recognize him initially when he reached home all covered in bandages, and his mother's first reaction was that she was seeing a ghost. Believe it or not, on the morning of 9th August, Yamaguchi managed to go to the Mitsubishi office for work, and when he narrated his story of death and destruction at Hiroshima, his director felt that he had gone mad. Suddenly, the landscape outside changed, and the sky was again filled with bright white light. Yamaguchi immediately dropped to the ground seconds before the shock waves shattered the glass windows in the office and sent glass pieces and debris flying all over the place. In his own words, he felt that the mushroom cloud had followed him from Hiroshima. In fact, the bomb in Nagasaki was more powerful than the one that hit Hiroshima. However, the city's hilly landscape and reinforced stairwell softened the impact at Yamaguchi's office premises. For the second time in 3 days, Yamaguchi had the great misfortune of being within 2 miles of ground zero, but fortunate enough to survive this one as well. As he got out of his office building, his immediate thoughts were on the safety of his family, and he rushed to his home. When he saw the building totally destroyed, he feared the worst, but both his wife and kid had survived with relatively minor injuries. In fact, his wife had gone out to get some burn ointment for him, which actually ended up saving their life. She and her baby took refuge in a tunnel as soon as the explosion happened. The excessive exposure to radiation over the 3-day period took a heavy toll on Yamaguchi's health as his hair fell off, his arm wounds turned gangrenous, and he had continuous bouts of vomiting. On 15th August 1945, Japanese Emperor Hirohito announced Japan's surrender, which ended the war. Yamaguchi remembers not having any feelings at that point in time, as he was struggling to deal with the after effects of the bombings and was unable to eat or drink anything. However, unlike many of his lesser fortunate countrymen, Yamaguchi slowly recovered and ended up leading a fairly normal life thereafter. He served as a translator to the occupying American forces in Japan and taught at school before resuming his engineering career with Mitsubishi. He and his wife had a couple of more children after the bombings. To deal with the horrific memories of the bombings, Yamaguchi resorted to writing poetry. He avoided public discussions on his experiences until the year 2000, when he released a memoir and decided to be part of an anti-atomic weapons movement. He went to New York in 2006 and spoke about nuclear disarmament in the United Nations. In fact, Yamaguchi was not the only person to survive both the bombings. 2 of his co-workers mentioned earlier were also at Nagasaki at the time of the second bombing. In total, it is believed that there were 165 people who survived both the bombings, but none lived long enough to be recognized as such. Yamaguchi was officially recognized by the Japanese government as Nijiyu Hibakusha, or the twice-bomb person, in 2009, a year before he died at the ripe old age of 93. So friends, that is the amazing survival story of my Mr. Unbreakable, Tsutomu Yamaguchi, and one cannot but feel a sense of destiny about how he survived to tell his tale. You may label him as one super lucky guy, or perhaps as one of God's favorite children. If you like this true story, please give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends in the socials. You can also subscribe to the channel for more such interesting stories. Thanks for watching, and I will see you soon.